Welcome to Wish I Had Known, the show where hindsight meets insight. Host Jody Lamb has worn many hats in the world of finance, from navigating the intricacies of financial planning to unraveling the mysteries of insurance claims and diving deep into the realm of structured settlements. Each episode explores the topics that make you say, if only I had known this sooner. Join the conversation as we uncover the insights that can make all the difference. This is Wish I Had Known, because knowledge is power and hindsight is 2020.
We discuss one topic at a time to help regrets of saying, if only I had known. Today, we're joined with Rob Schenker. Welcome, Rob.
Welcome, Jody. How are you today?
I'm great. How about yourself?
I am good. This is the first foray into modern times, so I'm looking forward to it.
Wow. Congratulations and Happy New Year. This is a great way to start your new adventure into the new year. I appreciate you joining us today. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you work, what you do, and who you are?
Sure. Appreciate the invite. Originally from New York, went to Syracuse University in upstate New York as an undergrad, and then defrosted at the University of Miami Law School for 3 years. From there, I joined a very small insurance litigation firm in New York City, where I stayed 15 years, climbing the ladder to the point before I exited. I was the managing partner of the firm, then set out in 1998 to establish my own thing with 3 other partners. We've been in business 26 years. The firm is Get Schenker, Lee, and Wiedehorn. We are located in Lower Manhattan and New York City and in Livingston, New Jersey. We focus our practice on insurance litigation, which essentially is defending personal injury claims that are brought against individuals and corporations, ranging everything from the fender benders you see advertised all over the streets of every city now, as well as, on the late night programming locally, up to and including more complex litigation, where people have very significant life-altering injuries and ultimately either resolving the cases through mediation or settlement or through jury verdicts.
And that's how we met. You've been an integral part of my entire career. I've been doing structures now for 17 years, and I swear we've been working side by side during that entire time. You have a lot of experience and you have a lot of perspective from both a business owner and your own personal experience through running a business. And I'm curious, what has your wish I had known experience been, and what story do you have to share, and how can you share that knowledge with others?
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit yesterday in preparing for this, and probably the greatest example of taking your experiences and trying to move forward, and probably the hardest obstacle everybody is still dealing with 4 years later, was the COVID pandemic and how it impacted both personally and professionally our lives. In litigating cases, we constantly heard from plaintiffs' attorneys before juries and before mediators and during structured conferences, etc., about, the loss of daily life and how that impacted people going forward. And we always made light of it because we were able to get up and go out and exist in the world, and we never really had a loss of daily life. Well, suddenly, the doors closed to our lives, and we were all captured inside our homes, our apartments, and suddenly had to deal with people, personalities, situations, both in life and in company operations that nobody really knew how to navigate. And I've been watching for 4 years now. Obviously, everybody is struggling, including myself, through this. But it's brought out a ton of insight into issues that previously we all took for granted that now are handled completely differently, from my daily existence of being in a long distance marriage where we saw each other every weekend for 4 days and never really lived with each other, to now 4 years later, 365 days a year, both working at home when we were both working in offices and traveling full time. Which was an incredible time for me dynamically as an individual that I wasn't planning on at the moment, and neither was my family, but here it was. And that changes, how you look at things and how you look at your partner, et cetera, to business arrangements, from the very essence of how do I communicate with people up to the current time, how do I hire people, how do I onboard people, and most importantly, how do you manage business and people, given that most of us, certainly to this day, are working remotely. And it's a real challenge to show up for any, after 25 years of commuting, to now show up in a room in my house and act in a professional, personal way so that my personality and my management can come out and still have the same impact on people. And it's been an incredible challenge.
So what have you learned in the last few years that has helped you acclimate and help you make that transition to be as successful as you are? And kudos for, staying married. Not everybody came out of COVID still married. You went from a very different lifestyle to being very close, and you obviously have grown closer as a result of that. But, what lessons have you learned from those last few years that have really positioned you where you are now that you're so successful?
Yeah, I think the biggest personal challenge is, and biggest answer is to figure out you can make it through this stuff and really build your own confidence and your own trust that the way that you operate and the way that you do things can work remotely. And yes, it has its challenges. And I, in fact, have business partners today who insist that, people need to be in an office, and, the traditional war of words that you see going on in the press and with corporations today as to whether people should be working remotely, how many days remotely, should they be in an office, etc. I have found, at least I think, a solution that I can manage and effectively run a corporation across 2 states, by doing this virtually, etc. Would it be easier if I was there and it was confronting me? Yes, but I'm actually finding when I do travel and coming into the office in New York, which is about a week a month, my time is bogged down with a lot more superfluous, what I'm finding to be almost not productive time, because everybody wants to say hello and there's a lot of socialization, which I love. But at a certain point, productivity, because we work on a billable hour and we need to get our time done and we need to get certain tasks done. And I've lost, happily, the daily interference of people coming in and out, coming in and out. So, for me, it's worked. My other partners, I'm on the phone with them, by Zoom, and people come in and interfere in our conversations. I go to like, how do you do this? Which was my first 25 years of existence.
So knowing what you know now, would you have embraced virtual environments like we have experienced now before COVID? Would you have embraced that sooner had you had this knowledge 5, 10 years ago?
Yeah, many years ago, I saw a lot of my insurance clients start setting up hotels for, employees to share and started to hire people remotely. And I remember there was one particular associate who was incredibly talented who lived in Philadelphia, and I'm in New York, and I couldn't cross that barrier to hire her because the thought of her working not in the same office space as me just blew my mind. I couldn't get past it. And now, we can hire all over the country as long as they're licensed to practice in our states. It works. And I find it's just as productive, if not more so. So it opens up the door to another community of employees. The bigger problem is that, obviously COVID interrupted our practice to the extent that our courts are now essentially closed except for trials. The court appearances that we lived on in pre-COVID have gone away. They're now 30 seconds, Teams calls, automatic orders from the court that just come out online and doesn't require an appearance. So there's been a big change in the number of people available to work for you as well as the way that they work. And you've got to make that change. And again, I look back at where I was and where I am now, as well as the firm, and we've swung around and we're right back to where we were beforehand in terms of work and money and economics. But as a result of it, the whole structure is completely different. And had I not experienced what I did in the past in terms of commuting and going back and forth and living separately and just, a whole different circumstances of relationships, I would have never figured out that this could work.
So knowing where you are now compared to where you started years ago, where do you see things going in the future?
Oh, I am convinced that this is a remote world. I have 4 children ages 20 to 33. And if one of them finds an office when they graduate and they're out in the real world, it would be a shock to me. None of them want the structure. The 3 out of the 4 are in the working world. Nobody goes to an office. They all work remotely at home. They don't really have home offices to report to. Everything is regionalized or broken down to territory. And they're a much different person, and they're a much happier generation to me because they're not going through the misery of commuting into a major city every day. They look at me and they think that there was something really, really wrong with me, that I had to do that every day. And I did.
We learn from those past experiences.
I never quite understood it. And it took COVID to really, absorb and understand where their work ethic and where their directions came from. I'm an A-type personality that always had to be there, grew up in the business, 15, 16 hours a day between commuting and work, 6 to 7 days a week. I never knew differently. If nothing else comes out of COVID, for me personally, health-wise, mentally, emotionally, so much better, such a dramatic change. And I can stop now at 12:30, take the dog for 30 minutes and come back. Things that, in the past, as you remember, Jeremy, you had to make a doctor's appointment in the past. It was like you had to change your whole life around. And you wouldn't do it half the time because it was such a disturbance and it would stick out in the work office.
Right. I mean, I love the fact that I can just do telehealth with my kids in the middle of rush hour traffic if we're running late, or, because we have back-to-back appointments, we can squeeze it in because we don't have to wait in the waiting room. We're virtual. And I think that's a lot of our clients are appreciating that as well, because the information comes quicker. They're making better use of their time. Your case in point is, your personal life has substantially improved. I mean, you're living now with your wife. What a crazy idea.
Working in the same house, which
And working and being productive and successfully running, your practice. Congratulations.
you quickly learn how to prioritize, and I think it takes a certain mental focus to be able to get past it. And I see a lot of people that work for me as well as outside of my office that are still challenged by the looseness of remote work, and they're being pulled in a million different directions. It's frustrating from a leadership perspective, but it's understandable, and finding that balance with each worker is just critical. I have a worker now who lives in New York. His parents are out in Arizona. They both got ill at the same time. They both need to be put into a long-term care situation at the same time. And his hours and his work attitude is a little different right now because he's got a different focus. In the past, I don't know how he made it through that, other than we probably checked out and weren't able to be there. It was all or nothing. And now he's able to do both. And some of my partners get very frustrated because he's not in a 9 to 5 schedule. He's, dealing with his parents. But it's your parents. I mean, that's well more important than anything we're doing in life. And that's where the priority needs to be. So if he, starts working at 10 p.m. and gets it done at, 4 or 5 in the morning, and he's okay and it's good in his relationship, as long as you're getting the work done, that's really all that matters. And it's being done efficiently.
And I think that's what our employees want from us, or want from employers, is that flexibility, that understanding that we are more than just working to earn a paycheck. We're working so we can live our life, and we don't live to work. And to be able to spend that time with our family, especially in those final days or years, months, that adds a lot of value and appreciation for an employer who has that flexibility. If there's people that are struggling, do you have any words of advice for those that are kind of holding back to being more receptive to a virtual workplace environment, or being more flexible with this post-COVID environment that we find ourselves in?
I'm sitting here looking at a dog next to you, Jeff. And
Milo and Jazzy.
4 years ago, the thought of ever doing this like this, let alone somebody would have a cat, a dog, etc., is humorous to me, because now I've, gone through depositions, pre-trials, mediations. You see pets all over the place. People are a little bit more laid back. It tells a little bit more about the person. It gives you a better sense of who you're talking to, rather than we're all sitting in suits and ties and dresses and suits and, all choked up inside an office. And it's phenomenal to see it. I appreciate it. Some people get crazy from it. I appreciate it because it tells much more about the person I'm talking to.
I think you and I were in a mediation 4 years ago when this guy entered our life. I recall sitting at the table. We were talking about Milo being adopted and how it was going to be a Christmas present. I think it was November. In fact, we were talking about these cute little puppy pictures, and now here he is. And right, we would never have had that opportunity to get to know each other a little bit better in that respect. But, I love the personality of being able to know the people that we're working with on a much more intimate level. It's more than just a name and a face. Like we're humans, we're people, we have families. So to be able to accommodate that, to be flexible as an employer, and as an individual, to get to know people on a much more personal level, I think that just enhances the work-life balance. It makes life more enjoyable. It makes work more, you appreciate the work that you do when the work is accommodating to the needs of your life. So, do you have any final parting words for the wish I had known conversation today,
Well,
Rob?
my lower back would like to say thank you because it doesn't have to travel 4 hours a day anymore. And it was extremely physically debilitating, close to surgery. I mean, you can imagine driving 40 miles into New York City every day and what that does for you emotionally and physically. And I feel 100 times better physically just by not driving every day that way. So that's a huge change. You would also ask me about, how do you handle people that are struggling? Well, I think you have to be sensitive to the fact that we are people, that we're not just, about work and about a case and about a mediation. We are people. And I think that helps, particularly in the field we're in, because we're dealing with people, whether right or wrong, that are devastated by what occurred. Some people elevate it to a level that unfortunately it takes over their life. In other cases, it shouldn't take over their life because it's truthfully just very, very, very bad injuries and very debilitating, both mentally and physically. And I think this sort of opens that door up to understand it a little better. And I can tell you from our own experience in the 4 years that, we've been in this, and now that jurors are back to work, the verdicts are really showing on the plaintiff's side, not because the cases are better, not because the law has changed, but people have really learned how to value themselves personally and figured out how difficult it can be to get through a day now and how much that means to them. They don't take it for granted anymore that they can just walk out the door, because every time we pop on the news, there's another strain of a virus, there's another spread of a COVID, there's, another, vaccine, whatever it is. It's just all very challenging. And I think we've all opened our eyes, all generations, to the fact that, boy, you better appreciate every day. I think we all heard it as we grew up from our parents, don't take anything for granted. You get to a point in life where you start taking everything for granted. This really, put a chokehold on it and made you realize, anything can happen at any moment. Knock wood, it never does again. But while you're in it, whether you're working or you're out personally, whether you're in marriage, not marriage, whatever it is, just enjoy those days because they're a gift. They really are. And I think, again, from our business, as you work with me, you're saying it. You're really saying it. And it's made a huge impact on the carriers we work for and the people that we work against on the plaintiff's side. And it's really personalized it and broken it down to the point where you can sit there with the dog on your lap, minus to the side of me, and we can have very, very professional, but also personal conversations and move forward for both of our own objectives and goals.
You're absolutely right. COVID has really put things in perspective, help prioritize, give us perspective for the injured parties. You absolutely nailed it. The inability to get out, what that really does to the human psyche. And, I share your struggles with your back. I'm no stranger to the back pain myself, and luggage being put up in those overhead bins. Yeah. I don't miss that at all.
Yeah.
But I think we've all grown a lot from COVID. I think you've absolutely nailed it, that we need to be more forgiving, a flexible, accommodating as employers, to provide a workplace environment for employees that they have the flexibility to take care of the family, the personal needs, the prioritization. We don't have to live to work. We work to live. And I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to share your story with us. Rob, if anybody wants to reach out to you and learn more about what you do, or continue the conversation, how do we find you?
Find us on our newly launched website in a week. That has been the last year of my work. Under the firm, which is Getz, Goetz, Schenker, Schenker. Or honestly, my cell phone has become my life. And anyone that has a question, concern, or just wants to talk, I'm open to it at 516-724-7953.
That's very kind of you, Rob. I do appreciate your responsiveness when I text you because you're great to work with. You're a wonderful professional, and I count you as a friend. So again, thank you for your participation today.
Thanks, Jody. Appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. Well, this has been another enlightening discussion aimed at expanding understanding so that you don't have to utter the words, wish I had known. If you have a remarkable story or wish I had known insights that you would like to share, hashtag Ask Jody. I'd love to hear your story. If you have a question or a challenging situation that you're uncertain of what to do, don't hesitate to reach out. Send me a DM on LinkedIn. Look forward to talking to you. Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. Please like, share, and subscribe so you can hear all of Jody's chats, so you don't have to say, wish I had known.